Cool. Um, cool. All right. Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, I mean, are you sure you okay to work together today, even though you're not feeling that good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not gonna let you see my face.
Okay, fair enough.
Uh,
So, so yeah, one thing that okay, so I was wondering what your objectives are with the training setup that you want to have. I have some specific questions, but uh you know, it's like maybe it would help you for me to kind of at least share what I think is possible. Hey, what's up, Michelle?
Hi.
Um, so when you get into like Monica, when you think about training content, one thing that's possible, I think that maybe would be relevant for you would be to personalize the training for an individual participant. And I don't know if you want to do that because you could get into like creating training content that is easy to change, for example. Um, but anyway, what have you thought about any of that stuff, Monica? Like what kind of training content you want for your company?
so that's what we are working on right now is that we have to work remote with what our scientists is giving us to work with, and so we're having it's a lot of it is going to be daily tasks that are the same, and so we want to make sure we have that daily task written down somewhere because the only thing that will be changing daily will be the data input of those daily tasks.
What do you mean by data input of the daily tasks?
So we have to do a lot of weighing, pre-weighing on
Okay.
because we're doing the insect breeding. So we have to do pre-weigh, weight, and then we have to add that into our data set, and then we have to do and this is where the training's coming in because this is steps that I have to fill the gaps in for with the scientists we're working on with, and so we're taking those steps, and after we do the pre-weigh we have to take two different types of material and put them together, and that requires uh this the same amount every day of that material, and it has to be put in. So anyways, that's day one. So then these insects grow for day one, and let's just say we've already have a week's worth of insects per day, right? Well, last week's day one input should be day 7 today, and so each day has its own data input is what I'm saying. So like um one bin starting on day
Mhm.
one will go 7 days. So I need data on that. Each day the weight's going to change because the insects are going to grow, and we're having to develop it that way based on weight.
I guess what I'm kind of trying to understand is how do you envision like what would be like the perfect version of this? Like if let's say that Pravin who just joined was one of your lab techs, like what would be the perfect version of them getting, this training information from you?
It basically would be able to have a manual set right there and have somebody go in and read steps 1. This is where step 1 is. Then step 2 and then step 3, all for the daily task of this area, one section. And then you go to section 2. This is your task for this section, and then go down that list. And so that it all flows throughout the day so that at the end of the day the tasks are completed for that day and preparation for the following day.
Okay, cool. So you're thinking more of like almost like a sort of personalized project management type of thing where you'd be like, "Hey, today I need you to do this," which is like this is going to be like here's some details about this like you said section, here's some details about this section, and then here's what we need to prepare for tomorrow.
But yes, essentially it's what it is. So that we we're not having to get those
Cool.
calls or interruptions, saying, "Hey, so what's next?" Or, so that there's no time in between of wondering what needs to be done next, so that that flow is continuously there. All they got to do is refer back to that manual and say, "Okay, we've already done this step. The next step is this, and this is the estimated amount of time it should take."
Okay, cool. I guess what I'm wondering, is just like what part of this do you envision to be basically with AI, I think the thing that you can think of is like you can make this stuff dynamic, or maybe you don't even need to. I mean, would you want to just have like a training manual that you can really easily update, or would you want this to be like something where you would like make it personalized, where like every single day they would get, for example, an email with their tasks?
So it would be nice right now to have it personalized with that person. Um, Eventually, we want to get into that system where we want to use what we've already input into a more automated system. But because right now, this is a manual way of doing it, I have to make sure that those processes are done manually. Whenever we expand and get into the robotics side of it, then I'm sure a lot of what we're working on will be implemented in there, but I think at that point we'll have variations to be able to input into that system so that it can
Hmm.
work efficiently on its own, is what
Cool.
I foresee for the future on the current task based on the expansion of future use for the AI.
Cool. All right. So like what I'm hearing from you is like a couple of like sort of like this is some structure that I'm seeing. So typically I, would suggest that, you have like maybe like a task instruction. Um,
Okay.
and like if you remember what I'm referring to here is like these instructions. Like actually Lucas, who's on the call, we've been working on a chat bot and like it uses instructions. And so I think that similarly, actually this would probably be a good one to start with. I'm just going to copy this here as a starting place for you. And I'll say rename Eco Rescue.
Okay, and I'm going to send
I'm
you
curious,
a little bit of.
Monica.
What's that, Lucas?
Oh, I was curious, Monica. Like, how static are these tasks day to day? Like, is it something that, like, on Monday, one person will always do the same thing, or is it something that, like, there are variables that that impact what they need to do each day? That maybe that could be something the AI helps kind of structure, I guess.
Right. So right now, a person would have to do it daily, and so they would have to follow those instructions. Eventually, the instructions we're giving that person, we would want to implement those into a robotics system that we're looking at. And so if we have a lot of what we've already are establishing, we would like to use that since we're already familiar with the variables that are in there, right? So, um, for instance, the only variable right now, which may not change, is going to be the feed that we give the insects to breed on. So that variable doesn't change. But if we want to do a little bit of R&D, we could change up one of those weeks to say we're going to try a different waste stream. And so that's where some of that different variables would come in that sense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just kind of
Cool.
trying to understand the use case a little better. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good question though, Lucas. I mean, I'm seeing here, I so like one of the things that you mentioned when I was taking some notes is this whole idea of like section 1 and section 2 and like these different parts of the lab. And I could see, Monica, that like if you have like information about our lab, maybe, and I know that you maybe already have a note like this that you've built out. Um, but like I would imagine that here, this would be good to basically add information about your lab sections.
Okay.
And
So,
maybe actually this would actually be specifically about the duties associated with the sections.
okay, that makes sense. And so I sent you like a small, like the intro of part of the training that we're getting, and of course this is coming from like our other person that's remote work, and so he's going off of what we're telling him what we have, and so then he's having to calculate that at that end and then send it to us and tell us this is with what you have, this is what the steps that you have to do. And so
Oh, okay.
it's pretty rough draft, but if you can see, I just emailed you that form that we're working on.
All right, cool. Let me open this up. And then, yeah, I think I can put some of this. I'll just copy this. So this is going to be so this is like basically how the lab is going to run. Is
Yes,
that
those are
supposed to
just the
be the
first.
beginning?
Yeah, those are just some of the first steps, like the prep work for part of the breeding processes. We still have several other steps we're implementing, but that's basically kind of like some of the format that we're going off of.
Cool. Yeah, so like maybe this goes away. But actually, one thing that Lucas and I have been working on, like if you look at this AI guide, and I think this can be relevant for maybe like especially I think you, Michelle, as you start looking at like if you're doing this for any of your classwork.
Right. Right.
But like so especially right here, this Eazl app functionality. And like I think Monica, this is similar. So like if you break down, like for example, Michelle, I could see this being like curriculum where you're
Mhm.
like class, topic one, and then you break down like, hey, here's what we're covering in topic one, or for you, Monica, like, section one of the lab, the duties, and these hashtags, these are like the markdown that we've been working on here. And I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about here with these tags and this markdown stuff when we take Monica's content here. But basically, what Lucas and I have been working on is like if you combine basically information about your system. So like just consider that like your class, like Monica, like your lab, and then with these chatbot instructions, and I'll show you some of these instructions that I think are relevant. So you're basically telling the AI like you're in the case of you, Monica, like you're like maybe like you're like the lab manager. In the case of you, Michelle, like maybe you're an instructor. And then you see here this section where it says if a question is asked of you about something that's not associated with, and we said solution, but it'd be like the lab, you know, um, in your case, Michelle, like the class, and just like don't answer it or just say like I don't know. So essentially, what you're doing is saying I'm going to give you all this information, like about my class, or in Monica's case, like the lab, and then I'm only going to respond to about the information that I find there. So you're kind of actually like excluding a lot of the AI's training data. You're saying like, don't look at your training data, just look at the data I'm giving you, and then try your best to respond about that data. And so let me show you what I'm doing here, and I think this is going to help y'all with the structuring of this info. So here, Monica, I'm going to add in okay, cool. Gotta fix this. I don't know why it's going down like that, but here we go. All right, cool. All right, Monica. So here's your production manual. So I think that y'all should watch how I do this. So I'm going to say in between the manual tags, you'll find the EcoRescue production manual. Okay, does anybody have any questions about what I just did here? Especially you, Monica or Michelle.
No.
You know what I'm doing there, Michelle?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you know what I'm doing there, Monica?
I see what you're doing. I mean, I have questions on, producing those lines, but I understand what you're doing.
Okay, you got it with the tab. Okay, cool. So then we're going to do manual here and then manual here. And then I'm going to just clean it up just a teeny bit. And then so here I'll do one hashtag for EcoRescue production manual. Do you guys know why I'm doing that?
Not really.
It's this main subject line.
That's right. So
Okay.
Michelle, when these models take your text, you can see here like there's no way for us to indicate any formatting.
Yeah.
Like we can't do, title, whatever. And so what that does to the text is that the LLMs don't understand any hierarchy to the data. So it won't understand that they can infer EcoRescue production manual is a title, but like this, like for example, this substrate collection, like that is clearly a subtitle. We can refer to Monica's thing here. Yeah, like it's a subtitle, right? So by doing the two hashtags, we're saying subtitle, and then you see like, there you go. So the reason we're doing this is like when you build out these more complicated prompts, I think it's important that your data that you're sending to the prompts, the language you're sending, is clean and well structured, because you're like Monica, like we're gonna ask like relatively complicated stuff of this prompt. Like we're gonna ask them to personalize it down to like an individual. And I think later on, as you're suggesting, you're gonna also add in maybe something here, like here's the variable we're testing this week.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, cool. So then let's see, let me see if this won't take that long. So I'm just gonna show you how I clean this up. All right, cool. So then we've got the hatchery info. Here's another one, hatchery. This is gonna be tricky because you're referencing an image.
Okay. And at this point, we are not able to put images in there.
Well, you can, but to my knowledge, basically what image stuff is, what large language models are doing with images is they're converting them to text and then putting them into the prompt. So
Okay.
it's
Yes,
not
I've
like
seen
it's
that.
not like a yeah, so it's not like a pure play like, hey, take this image and spit me back out this image. I mean, these are large language models, language like they convert everything to text. But that's okay. So like here, I'll just do this, Monica, where like y'all should basically make your this area is this part of the prompt is descriptive with accurate text, not the image.
I really like how you
All
split
right, cool.
the Texas y'all in there.
Yeah, you go. That's part of the thing with, I don't know, I was doing a TikTok last night on solopreneurship because, man, when you decide that it's just who cares? I don't have to be like, pretend like it's a brand, whatever. No, it's me, and I say y'all. Honestly, and let's be real, I know Michelle's an English person and librarian, but y'all is a superior word. I mean, what are you
I
gonna say,
say it
these
too.
guys?
I'm just wondering how that's going to come across in text when they start implementing those in those
No,
robotic.
this is a note for you, Monica. This is a note for you. But yes, I'm pretty sure that the LLMs would understand y'all. But this is a note for you. This is I think you guys, like your team, like you guys should just make sure the people who know about this stuff, not me, that basically this is that like essentially that the model will know what you're talking about without referencing that image.
Okay, got it.
You know what I'm saying? All right, cool. So then we'll go here and we'll like start cleaning this up a little bit. Okay, calculating the mass number of larvae per larvae. I do not know anything about this. Okay, so then I'd probably like to see this a little cleaner. Like here's how we calculate like that. Okay, but maybe the training, maybe it'll know some stuff. The model will know more about what you're talking about here. Okay, moving to pupation pod. God, Monica, I have the pupation pod. Are you serious? What is that?
Lots of moving steps here.
Yeah, totally. Okay, to the pupation pod and then the love nest. Is the love nest related to the pupation pod?
Uh, Good question. This is where my scientist kind of comes in on this, but I believe so. I believe it's like
Okay, cool.
it's a preparation for that love nest.
So then this is where you do the 3 hashtags, you know, because it's like nested underneath the pupation
Okay,
pod thing.
got it.
And then you got the daily task was the last one. I think in here again, these little things again for you, Monica. Here again, y'all need to explain this with text, not an image. Okay, and then here's the daily task. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So then you've got your basic manual. So now you can reference that. And I'll go ahead and just everybody on the call, if you do use the Eazl platform, know that you can share, you can invite a collaborator to a prompt. Just you go over here to these 3 dots. And then I'll give this one to you, Monica. There you go. All right, sweet. So like basically now you've got the beginning part of your manual. I would guess that if this is just task assignment, Monica, I think you can just like leave it close to what it is. But if you're gonna actually like onboard people and stuff, I would put another note maybe that's like basic information about like what's in the lab, where stuff is, what's the safety rules. As you make it more elaborate, you'll be able to, you know, it'll give it more custom stuff.
Okay.
All right, cool. So how does this manual that you just shared with me relate to your like sections of the lab? Like is the pupation pod a section of the lab?
Yes. So the lab is broken into 3 sections, and we are currently working on the pre-stage, which is it's inside of a tent, and then we have the love nest, which is the one that you just showed right there. That's a separate section where
So we
that
got the substrate section. Is that a section?
yes. So we have it's called substrate, which is waste. So we have that, and that's outside. That section
Okay,
is
this is
outside.
outside.
And then we bring
Okay.
that inside. And then this is where the whole calculations and everything go through with, the portions of the waste and the other material plus the eggs go together.
So
And
this is in section 2. What's that? What's that called? Or is that the hatchery?
yes, that'll be the hatchery.
Okay. Okay, cool. So we got the substrate. Oh, okay. And then the love nest, is that right? Or the
Yes.
pupation pod?
The
Okay.
patient pod is the preparation for the love nest.
Okay, so the 3 sections are the substrate, the hatchery, and the love nest.
Right. But there's a lot going on in each of those sections. There's preparation for each of those
Okay.
sections.
All right, cool. So, because I think that if you're going to break this, and then you're going to break down people's tasks by section, like they're going to go through like section
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Is that right? All
Yeah.
right,
And
cool.
that's what we're working on. Like, this is why we started off with that really hard, rough draft, because we have
Mhm.
to zoom in the scientists and tell us, okay, you got to go get this, take that, and put it together. And so while he's doing that, what my plan is to record him so that we could transfer his recording to text. That'll help us input a lot of those training steps in there.
Okay. So it looks to me like our organization here is a little bit off. I would like to see the organization of your production manual align with the sections because I think it'll be easier for the AI to reference it. So you've got hatchery, and then this introduction of BSFL is you're the flies, right?
Right. The eggs into the so what he means there is the merging of the eggs with the waste.
And that's part of the hatchery?
That's part of the hatchery.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna do an extra hashtag there. And then is the pupation, and then the pupation pod is part of the love nest, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So let's call this the love nest. And then here. Okay, cool. So I know that Lucas probably has heard me talk about this, but I would like to see this. Like, I'd like to see a little section here with like a subsection, like maybe like overview. And I think this is good because this seems to me to describe what's going on here. What's up, Michelle?
Davis, I've got to go at 8:30. It's 8:30 my time, but thank you so much. I just had a half hour. So
Thanks for coming, Michelle. It's
yeah,
always so good to see you. I hope you have a great
yeah,
day.
take care. Very interesting. Okay.
Bye. All right, cool. So you've got your overview here. Okay, cool. So this, I think I'm going to do a little note for your team again, Monica, like clarify that this is an accurate overview. Okay, cool. And then this is like, so the love nest, this part is really like the process. Okay. Okay, cool. You know, Monica, I think, we should invite the people that are working with you to collaborate on this prompt, I think.
Yeah, well, we can do that. The only thing with the time that he has is that he's in a different country. So it would be 5 o'clock our time that he would be able to get on with any of these calls. But we can do something off in a different time
Yeah,
to
even I'm not even saying like in synchronous, like us doing it on this, but like, here, like this this, like you should add him as a collaborator, like here,
okay. Let me
like
email.
like with their email.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let
like
me
if you go into your prompt and put their email here, or I can do it, I can show you. And then you can and then but unless he signed up for the app, you'll get like a link. So you need to email him this link, and then he can come in and collaborate on the prompt with you. And you could even go and just tell him, fill out those parts, that have the little arrows.
okay. I think he signed up. Let me just double check and I'll give you his email.
Yeah, but this would be kind of fun to check. We could like test this out. So today, like, let's say, so Sam is coming into the office today, and all right, I'll do that here.
Okay, just put his email in the chat.
All right, cool. So let's collaborate here. Boom. All right, cool. So then here's so Sorry, I accidentally. Yeah. All right, cool. So here's the link, Monica. I'm gonna put it in the chat where you can message him,
Okay.
and then he can join and get access. Let's just test out here where we are so far. So Sam's coming to office today, and he has never been through the process described in the manual. Walk him through this step by step. This is not going to give us great results, but let's see how we're doing. Oh, it's not in there. Our instructions are too limiting. Okay, let's go ahead and just take these out for now. I'm going to take these instructions out for now, Monica, but we could maybe work on that later.
Okay.
Let's try here. You could also let the model. So like, I think one decision point for you, Monica, would be, do you want to let the AI reference its own training data about, the context doesn't provide any information about Sam's visit or him being unfamiliar. Huh. Let's try a different model. But you could let it know about, black soldier fly production. It might, maybe it would know.
Well, I have the other main training manual that I wanted to cross-reference on some of the things, and that's what we're doing. So the reason we have the limited guide that you have right now is because the size that's in the manual is not what we're doing as starting off. We're doing something it's on a smaller scale. And so we're having to take a lot.
Okay. Hey, that's pretty good. I think
That does, yeah, that looks really nice.
sweet. Man, only thing that bums me out there is how much better GPT-4 was than Gemini, Google's model, because
Yeah, I was
GPT-4
telling
is
you.
a little more expensive.
Yeah, I
Go
think
on,
Gemini
Lucas.
just needs a little more. I think Gemini, from what I was discovering with the chatbot, it just needs a lot more kind of rails to operate off of. I think ChatGPT is more able to kind of abstract between the lines, and Gemini, I think you need very, very specific instructions for. It's just kind of what I discovered going through.
Interesting.
And then also, I mean, and iterating through seems to help too. So like, obviously like this prompt, you may see some stuff that isn't quite right, and kind of the process, I think, in engineering the prompts kind of involves, you have your first try and you notice, okay, well, that's not quite right. And you go through and you kind of give it instructions that kind of, detail a little bit further, and I think, kind of you go through the prompt a couple times, iterating and refining it, I think. So I think, very rarely, I think you should probably expect to get the perfect result right out the box. But I think, by continuing to refine the prompt, I think you definitely can always get there. You can usually get there anyways.
Okay, cool. So basically you're suggesting that you think Gemini is better for more mature prompts where you've really dialed it in.
That's what it seems like based off, what I've seen. Gemini's still new too, so it's very possible that they'll update it and refine it, from there into the future. But yeah, from my end, it seems like you said, more mature prompts are probably more Gemini strong suit, I guess, or just more basic prompts also.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm just out of curiosity. Let's try Palm. I don't think this will really impact you too much, Monica, because this prompt isn't that expensive. I look like GPT-4 was only like 6 cents to generate it. Not that bad. But if you can use these Google models, oh, look at that. Palm was pretty good. Yeah, like these Google models are super affordable. Okay, cool. Wait. All right, cool. Yeah, well, I think Monica, like, does that get you a little bit about what you're wanting to do?
Yeah, that looks a lot cleaner, and that is something that could definitely go into a manual, and then we can work from there, like what steps needed to be added and edit it as we go along.
Cool. Yeah, I think if I were you, like, I think that where you could really start to get the benefit from AI are, twofold would be like I think as you use it more, like you could basically have like more like management. This is actually really interesting. It's kind of fun to do this, but like you could basically have management priorities, I would imagine. Like, for example, maybe like, and one thing that might help you to understand, I've been thinking about okay, Melissa, Saints. What's up, Saints? It's good to see you again, by the way. One thing that I've been seeing here is like I think that it's tempting to think that you want one prompt to solve like a lot, like everything. So like in your case, Monica, like that you want one prompt to help you automate improvements in the lab and do this. Like but I think that you might want to think about multiple prompts that that work together. And to start with, like one thing that you might want to do, Monica, is like basically say like, hey, here are the results from like our week's work at EcoRescue. And like based on what you know about either some information that you add or its own training data, like suggest a variable that we would test to improve our results. And then you and maybe your science team would be like, cool, this one looks good, let's test that. And then you would go back to like this prompt, for example, and then add in a note that's like what we're trying this week. And then when you generate, then it would take into account what the variable is. So like it would give the same, step by step, but it'd be like, hey, but this week we're trying whatever, some variable, and then it would modify the steps for the person based on what you're trying to experiment with. So actually that leads me to think, for what it's worth, Monica, like you might create, I don't really want to create the note in my profile because I have it in here, but like you might create a
yeah.
note that's like management priorities,
Okay.
or like, experiments in the lab, something like that. And then basically even in the early days, like it's be kind of interesting. We could even try we could even test it out over here.
And I have a couple
Like if we
I have a lot of notes in that I've separated because it helps in my head. So I have like notes in my deck that have to do with market research, and has to do with the actual research of the insects, and I have notes based on the different waste streams, and so it's all sectioned out in those particular notes for me based on that. So
perfect.
I think,
Well, hey, do you want to show?
yeah,
Yeah, I know you don't want to be on camera. Why don't let's do this together. Why don't you present and let's play with this. If you present, let's walk through adding some of those notes to this prompt and see how it changes the output.
Okay. It doesn't let me share my Eazl screen.
Let me see. Maybe I have to like make you a presenter or something. Let's see how I do that. Everyone send messages.
But you said also, Monica, y'all have a manual that's intended for kind of a larger operation that you're trying to kind of scale down for y'all's operation as well.
Right. So we have a full manual that we're using as a reference, but that manual requires like 5, like like tonnage, like 5 tons is the minimum. And right now we're doing pounds, in pound increments. And we're trying to use the information in the smallest increments so that we have more control of the data and then grow from there.
And have y'all already done that scaling? Is that something like you're doing in real
Yes.
time? Like as you gotcha.
So we haven't done it, but the scaling portion has been done. We're not the first company to do it, but these companies that do it are in different countries. And so they have a lot of the manual processes, which is why we don't do it here in the US because it's too expensive. There's too many variables. It's unpredicted. All of the insect rearing is unpredictable. And so what we're trying to do is hone in on the predictable part, on being able to read like the egg count, the egg viability. And so that's further down the line, but being able to tune into these smaller manual processes will help us fine tune what we need to on the larger scale.
Mm.
I see. So kind of proof of concept before you take it to, kind of a more commercial or large scale kind of operation.
Right. And that's just because, like I said, that it's been done, but we don't do it in the US because the production is too expensive because of the unpredictability. And so a lot of these productions are done outside of the US, which is why the scientist that I have is one of the best. He's done mass production in Africa, and that's one of their main processes, but it's all done manually. And so we're taking those manual processes and we're just implementing them into more automated and efficient processes. And now that we were already doing this prior to AI, we were implementing a lot of these robotics processes. But now that we know we have access to AI that will help us get better at these processes, that's why we're going this route also.
Interesting.
Do you see the little Monica? It won't let you present. Is that right?
Yeah, it doesn't let me share or anything at all, but I can, let me see.
The little arrow down there, present now. It like says you can't do it or something.
No, I can send you a print screen of what my Eazl desktop looks like.
Nah, that's all right. Okay, cool. Then I'm gonna unpin you here. But yeah, I mean, do you know how to add the notes to your prompt?
So that's the one thing I am working on, because I know like some of the notes I from the notes that I have, I wanted to create, like, let's say the R&D stuff that I've pulled that I know that we've worked on, and I want to merge it with some of the the training guide, right? And so I need to somehow implement those two together so we can say, this is what's already been done, and this is your process based on the two, the percentage of each one, for it to show each level, something to that effect, so that we can make better decisions on which direction to go on that process. Which is why I'm saying, like, it's an ongoing process, because right now we're doing manual, but we know that there's other guides out there that have different processes for, let's just say, the love nest, right? And so we take the
So
love
one
nest.
thing that, yeah, like one thing that I think there's a couple. But first of all, just to be clear, so you know how to like be highlighted on your prompt and then go up here and be like, some note and then like add it to the prompt, right?
Yes,
Do you
I
know
know
how to
how to
do
do
that?
that. No, do that.
Cool.
It's just a matter of putting those thoughts together.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so like for what it's worth, like maybe you'll find this helpful. It's not about the, AI or the platform specifically, but the in my experience in this world, it'd be helpful to define what would be like a successful experiment. So for example, like what yield or whatever metric would be like, hey, this is successful. So for example, like, 10% increase in larvae production or 20% or whatever that is. And I think that that'll work better with AI than giving it examples of good and bad. Because from what I understand, and maybe Lucas can validate what he knows from this area, but like AI is better at going towards what's good than avoiding what's bad. So what you ultimately would want to shoot for is that right, Lucas? Can you validate that at all?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they say that giving a positive example works better. You know, hey, this is what I want you to do versus this is what I don't want you to do. Because I think one is, you know, it can operate off one better because it has concrete examples versus I don't want you to do that, but that still leaves open a question of what it is supposed to do, and still just kind of making that guess, I guess, if that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, so
Okay.
maybe Monica, like that would be helpful for you guys would be to like line up you know, you might even like one thing I've seen in other like experiment frameworks is like, and this would work well with like a note, would be like to, you know, create a note where you're like experiments we want to try in the lab. And then I think markdown would be good here too, to be like experiment 1, like what it is, what we hope to see. And then if you have a note that has those experiments and you put those into your prompts, then I think you could then give the AI license to be like, what experiment do you think we should try? And then tell us how to implement it. And then that could like go into what you're doing here.
Okay. Well, that kind of helps with the way I would like to do things, because that's kind of what we're doing is taking a few of the different waste streams and figuring out the differences on the breeding times and the
Are the
amount.
waste streams like different types of waste or something?
Yeah, so like right now we're using what we call clean waste, is the fish hatcheries poop from the fish.
Okay.
And and that in itself is a high protein content. So it actually increases the value of the insect because they already have a protein, but by them eating another higher protein that's clean, which when I mean clean is it's not different. Like let's say for instance, you have a bunch of fruits and vegetables and meats all in one. Well, it's still clean if there's no plastics in there, but it's different types of organic waste. You know, even like brewer's waste, which is beer waste, you know, the the grains from the beer, that also increases the protein. So it just depends on what is organically decomposing, because each one has its own set of composting. You know, I'm not sure what the exact word is, but they each compose differently. And when the insects eat them, depending on if they're clean or they're different, they can compost it, but they can also gain some of that positive protein or calcium from each of those substrates. So that's why those experiments are different, because they can eat like cow poop, you know. Well, they won't get high protein out of that, but it does sustain them to breed again.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Because that might be another note that you would maybe you put that in this production manual, like maybe, you know, the different waste streams, or maybe it's in the background information about your company. But it seems to me like defining that so that the AI knows what's going on with like the different sources of essentially food for the flies. It seems like that would be worth letting it know.
Okay.
Yeah, like one thing I think is actually like it'd be kind of interesting to think about like you know, actually I don't know if you like, I know my wife really likes these like visual like vision board things, stuff like that. Um and maybe it seems a lot of women like that stuff. And it might help you to even like take a piece of paper and be like, what is it that we know at EcoRescue that's like our stuff? Like for example, like our waste streams, our site, like maybe our resources or whatever, because those are things that AI would never know. You know, and so like those would be good notes because the AI would never know them. Whereas like some of maybe some of the research that you're thinking about dropping in, maybe the AI already has trained on that.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense on the level that we're doing it. So we definitely can implement what we have and what's out there. And I think that's kind of where I was going with this is what's in the guidebook and what we're kind of already doing. So you're hitting on those points that I was already going in that direction, but you've
Cool.
pinpointed exactly what it should look like.
Cool. Yeah, and there's another one I was thinking about. Oh, the goal. I think that it would also be good if you have like a company overview, like what you described to Lucas of your goal of like doing small scale, what then you could scale up to big scale. I bet you that'll change your output a little bit, because like it will enable the AI to be like, oh, like test this for replicability, or like that kind of stuff. Like I think it would maybe give the model license to suggest things that are going to lead to that scalability. Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. It's fun. I'm glad that even with this, honestly, this was pretty easy. So I'm glad even with this minimal structuring, like you can get, step by step stuff. And if you want to, like you can look at, I don't know, customizing the output, stuff like that. Cool. Well, maybe we've got like another like 5 minutes. Melissa, are you interested in telling us what you're working on in the AI space at all, or what you're interested in?
Hello, good afternoon, Davis. Um, no, I'm tuning in. I'm really interested I actually got one of your courses through Udemy, and I'm interested in seeing everything that you do with Eazl and see how I can use it as well. So this has been great. I'm just kind of tuning in and listening to everything.
Cool. Just getting your feet wet. What kind of work do you do?
I'm with the utility company. I'm in the marketing department and we work with a lot of programs, but honestly, I have a bachelor's in computer science and I'm trying to kind of get into that field, which is extremely difficult, very difficult.
Mm,
So, I'm grasping every information I can get is really broad, but just to kind of narrow down where my interests are. And I'm using these tools mainly for my personal use.
totally. Well, that's actually one thing about like the Easel app that I think is really different than a lot of AI systems is like I see a lot of energy in the AI space going towards basically like um kind of like narrowly calibrated tools for specific companies. And I think that's because like in the startup space, you see a lot of these, it's like pick a niche and da da da. But actually, I was talking to Monica earlier this week about like why she likes the platform. And she's like, well, because it gives me control and I can like evolve my stuff. And like I'm actually doing the AI work myself. Um,
Yes.
and and like so I would imagine for somebody like you that like whether you use the Easel platform or not, like you can be so much more productive through the use of AI, whether it's in your job or like in a side hustle or whatever. um and one thing I would just like suggest to you, and I know I've told Lucas about this, and also for you, Monica, sorry, I'm pointing because that's where you guys are on my screen. um but honestly, I think that another step that would be really helpful for a lot of you guys would be to just learn the basics or have somebody on your team, in your case, Monica, learn the basics of Google Apps Script. And I'll put this like course up here. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, cool. This is it. I'm gonna put this in the chat here. So like the reason that I think that this is important is that like Monica, in your case, I think where you're going to want to go with this is to automate like delivery of this on like a daily basis, for example, where you know, like you could, where like you have a reference point, like maybe a spreadsheet, like a Google sheet that says like, here's who's working on these days, and then here's their email address. And then like you could automate like, hey, at 8 a.m., go in and hit this prompt, which like if you or your team has changed the experiments or the data or whatever, you know, you can do that on the Eazl app, but have it go hit the prompt and then send that person an email and be like, hey, like basically what the email that it would send would be this. I'm going to go to the results here. So like it would be, you know, like this content here would be your email. So where you can basically start connecting your prompt stuff with like your daily operation stuff. And for what it's worth for you, Melissa, if you do CS, like, you know, if you're willing to learn a little bit of JavaScript, you already know it through that app script course, I see huge demand for exactly this combination of basically technology for so many small and medium-sized businesses. Essentially, something like the Eazl app, so like a prompt management system, plus Google automations, because that's when you get into like calendar, newsletters, sales, CRM updating, you know, customer outreach, monitoring, like almost all the things that businesses do. Like you can combine those with, if you have something like Eazl app plus Google Workspace, then like you really can go in and basically start completely changing up how businesses work. And like I have a client that's like exactly doing that right now, and I think the demand is going to be really, really big. And if you know how to do these prompts and then you can like implement it for these people, the other thing I've noticed is that they stick around because like they don't know how to do Google App Script, and then you're like, and this stuff is not hard. It's basically making an API call, if you know what that is, and then connecting it to something like a calendar, you know, email. And anyway, so yeah,
Oh,
I think that that's big opportunity.
yeah, it's
And
definitely
Melissa,
interesting.
they have a community for women in artificial intelligence. I can send you a link, and it just goes into the different markets that they're looking at people to have experience in different spaces. So Davis kind of went along the same lines. I have a technical background also, which is why this is a little bit easier for me than just somebody that has like zero. But
Mm-hmm.
you have that capability to already be ahead of the curve on a lot of different um, markets, it looks like. But if you want to just look at different communities, they have some out there. I went to one. I don't know if you're in the Austin area or not, but they have a few there in Austin.
Yes, I've been, I think, to two. I'm in the Tampa, Florida, and I believe there's one that was created here. It's regional, so it hits a couple of cities in Florida. But yeah, I'm just really trying to engage more, network more, and I appreciate all of the information. I'm definitely going to look into that class, David.
Cool. It's really simple to start, and that'll basically so basically what it does is open you up to be, you know, a programmer essentially for anybody that uses Google Workspace, whether they're an individual or they're a company that uses Google as their
Mm-hmm.
backend, as their you know stuff.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, yeah. All right, cool. Well, it's 11, so I'm gonna end this for now, or this call now, but I'm gonna do this again next week. Next week we're gonna be doing personalized feedback for a teacher I think she's in Maryland. She's a college teacher, and how she can flow through her essays from her class and give each student personalized feedback. And she probably will be able to do this in about 30 seconds for about 30 students. So
Wow.
anyway, that's next week. So I'll probably do it at the same time. I would guess at 10. I'll see. Actually, I can tell you right now before we jump. So we're going to do that at 10. Yeah, we'll do that at 10. Central 10. So it's the same time slot as this one. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Saints. It's good to at least see you on the call. And thank you, Lucas, for joining. And I hope this was helpful, Monica. And nice to see you again, Melissa.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
Bye.
Davis.